After that first concert in 1998, something surprising happened. People came back. After that first weekend's concert, we nearly sold out the second concert just by word of mouth. I realized this wasn't just a one-night experiment, so in 1999, I decided to try it again. And I ended up making a Christmas record. I unabashedly called it A Christmas because I thought Amazon's new music division would notice it alphabetically. They did not. But something else happened that year that mattered much more. After that first concert, a new friend of mine, Chris, who was also the CFO of the startup I was working for, called me into his office, and he told me the story of how his daughter Jordan had recently passed away and how she was at Seattle Children's and the whole story. But then he also said they have a piano in the playroom at Seattle Children's. And because I had an Irish Catholic mother and an Italian Catholic father, I immediately, just out of guilt, picked up the phone and called up the hospital and said, "Hi, my name is Mateo Messina. I play piano professionally. Would you like me to come play?" And they said, "Yeah, come on down." I went to the playroom at Seattle Children's Hospital, and I have to be honest, I was kind of nervous. So I just sat down at the piano, started playing. And what was magical is kids just started coming over and hanging out at the piano. I think they just liked the tunes. And what was really interesting is kids are just kids, no matter what predicament, no matter what status. I mean, some were siblings of kids going through treatment. Some were going through chemotherapy and had an IV pole. Some were there for something completely different. And you never know, but it didn't matter. It was just, we were just writing songs. We were just playing together. And anything I had done in the concert hall just kind of melted away because those kids just wanted to be seen, just like any human being. And we just played together, except for in this case, we played piano. And what was really fun is I would have them play C an octave apart, and then I would play this big boogie woogie thing underneath, and they'd just be up here going, and we made these duets, and it was the first kid I played with just lit up. We had so much fun, and then we went on to write songs about bees and dogs and farts and forget about cancer and forget about whatever else they're going through for a little while. But what I love is I've done that exact same introduction with every single kid for so many years since. There's something perfectly normal but also quite delicate about playing music in the playroom. It reminds you that music isn't necessarily about entertaining people as much as it is connecting with them. I met a lot of kids and families in those first few years, and I learned about this fund called uncompensated care. It basically ensured that any kid that showed up to the hospital would get admitted in and taken care of, no matter their insurance or financial status. And I learned how important that fund was to so many families. For the concert, I brought out an old record player. I played Johnny Mathis and Nat King Cole, just played record. It was kind of an odd way to start a symphony, but it was pure nostalgia, memory, warmth. But what I didn't know is it was about to shift my entire reason for making these concerts. That same year, I met some mentors who gently nudged me forward. One was a gentleman named Phil Smart, who was at the hospital every single Wednesday for 40 plus years. He was my hero. And he said, if you were serious about this, go all in. And don't just give money to the hospital that you make from the fundraiser. Tell the audience what you're doing so they'll donate to the hospital as well. Also that year, a friend of mine had asked me to write music for his short film. I said, I don't really know how to do that. He goes, you didn't know how to write a symphony last year. I was like, touche. I wrote music for this film and I became fascinated with it. I fell in love with it immediately. I would go to every single film scoring session that would happen in Seattle, and there were quite a few those days. And there was one composer named Angelo Badalamenti who was doing music for one of David Lynch's films. And he said, hey, stick around after the session. And we had this great conversation. He asked me this crazy question. He goes, do you play baseball? I said, well, I did when I was a kid. He goes, where? And I said, across the water, a place called Alki Beach. He goes, is there a baseball field there? I go, yeah, it's called Barres Fields. He goes, so you went to the baseball diamond to play baseball? I said, yes. He goes, well, then what do you think you're doing living in Seattle thinking you're going to write film music? And I moved to Los Angeles within 6 months after that. Something about playing in the hospital playroom really changed the equation for me. I mean, it wasn't just about being creative anymore. It was about doing something with purpose. Now the concerts had real meaning attached to them, and that made the risk feel different. For the concert, I originally recruited the Mercer Island Children's Choir to come sing, but we had a schedule conflict in the end, and so I ended up bringing in 3 sopranos, and it went from what would have been a very wondrous kind of feel to almost a haunting feel. So I made an entire album of Christmas music that almost feels haunted, to be perfectly frank. I mean, it was definitely an original Christmas concert with the sopranos, didgeridoo, I had drummers, like it was definitely out there with a small ensemble orchestra. But somehow it was still warm and nostalgic and, you know, community oriented. So in 1999 was the year I realized something. Music could be more than an expression. It could also be a contribution. When I started volunteering at the hospital, it wasn't anything that I had planned. But small moments, repeated over time, can change the trajectory of your life. That year, the concerts stopped being about whether I could write a symphony or not, and they became more of like, what could these concerts serve? And that led into next year of taking even bigger risks as we went into the year 2000. I left the security of my home behind and I went down to Los Angeles to create opportunities versus wait for them.